Well, this isn't the first time we've had these two blokes in our joint, is it?
No, well, one of our guests said earlier that, all things happen for a reason. So let's introduce our guests and then we'll ask them what they think. So we've got the Goes Alright boys, Cados and Rog. How are we, boys?
Never better.
Going well, lads.
I did come up with that saying myself, by the way. All things happen for a reason. That's one of my originals. So
Really?
watch that explode over time.
In what context was that brought up?
Idiot.
Well, because this isn't our first
Teenage
time.
pregnancy.
Yeah, correct. Well, this isn't our first time in your lovely abode, and we're grouse and stoked to be back for a second time. But the first time around, we came in and we had the best chat you've ever seen for 2 hours. I thought this was going to go gangbusters, international, viral.
Didn't we all?
Possibly like interplanetary, that's how good it was. And the computer crashed right at the end. We had to go off to the footy and the recording was no longer.
We were so embarrassed as well.
Oh, well, from my end, I was shattered. Dee had to pick me up from the couch because we had to go to work that night. And I was laying on the couch depressed. I was absolutely gutted.
The loyal Joss and D listeners know that this is not a problem that's happened. It happens quite a bit. But anyway, we've got great equipment and nothing's going to go wrong.
Thanks to our friends at Road.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wow.
But boys, are you unemployed now? The footy season's over. What's going on?
Unemployed, irrelevant, depressed. Yeah, it's heartbreaking when it gets to this time of year. So the potty stopped until next year, hopefully. We'll find out about that in the next little bit. And there's not much footy to make content about. So it's just head to the beach, cruise, and just build up for next year.
How good's that?
But bit of basketball.
Bit of basketball.
The AFL's finished, but now NBL's happening.
Oh, yeah.
We were
You're hanging out with Josh
talking about
Giddey and the boys.
We were on centre court.
Yeah, it is insane how, I'm the furthest thing from a basketball man ever. Never been into basketball in my life. But the NBL has got that much momentum behind it. Doss says that it was like the A-League sort of 10 years ago when that was popping off.
Yeah.
And the Big Bash a little bit before that, maybe.
Yeah, the Big Bash had a run. Remember, everyone started going to the Big Bash, and then the A-League had this run where they were packing out Amy Park and Marvel Stadium, and now it feels like it's the NBL's time.
100%.
Like, all the kids just love going, and I didn't know we'd be talking NBL this early, but I have...
Well, it's fresh.
I have been to an NBL game before, and it's only like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people, but the atmosphere is awesome. Like, they got the clappers and they got the music, so it is actually enjoyable.
I'm yet to go, actually.
It's good fun. Even when I don't know if you boys have been to the States and been to an NBA game. Have you?
Nah, I haven't.
Nah.
I've done that.
Yeah, that they just do it so much better than we do in Australia. So, but the NBL is that addition to it. Because I love the soccer, the A-League. So I'm pretty upset how bad it's kind of gone. But I haven't been to many NBL games. We should go to one.
Yeah, we should.
Mate, I used to be a massive Melbourne Victory man. Me and my mates, when we were in sort of year 10, we'd go nearly every week. Like, if we had a spare Saturday, we were going. We were in the Northern Terrace going ballistic for the Melbourne Victory. We were chanting. And I remember saying the most ludicrous comment you'll ever hear. I remember trying to explain to my uncle, who's one of those guys that just hates soccer. I think it's the worst thing ever. I said, you watch, in 20 years... I think the A-League will be bigger than the AFL.
One of those blokes.
Remember that time when the AFL was on the decline? Like, they had to make all these rule changes because the game was just the rolling mall or whatever they called it. And it just seemed like A-League had all this momentum. AFL on the way down, but they brought it back, the AFL, and the A-League's dead.
Well, like world sport, you could see in 20 years the A-League, if it did get big enough, recruiting like international stars and sort of rivaling some bigger leagues. But you look at it now and you go, nah, it is really just a feeder league.
And I still love it somehow.
Josh loves it, yeah. Well, boys, talk us through, so for the listeners, let's talk a little bit about Goes Alright. Tell us about the year. How did it even come about? Let's start there and then we'll go through the year.
Yeah, well, so it was about this time last year, I was trying to organise some footy Guernseys for a 6-on-6 sort of series that I've got on my channel.
Yep.
Where myself, Rog, and a lot of the channel regulars that pop up on my goal kicking challenges and whatnot are taking on AFL creators in like a mini league of football.
Yeah.
So I was just waiting for a phone call from the Guernsey company, and I was finishing my avocado on toast and had about 1 or 2 bites left, and this no number came up, so I just left it through to the keeper.
Yep.
I call it back, and I'm expecting the Guernsey company, but on the other end of the line, it was Dylan Buckley, and he said, "Oh, g'day, mate. It's Dylan Buckley here. Just wondering what you're doing next year." And I'm like, not a lot.
So did he did he assume you know who he was? Did he have to explain this is Dylan Buckley, blah, blah, blah?
I think Dylan Buckley assumes he knows who people is.
No, interesting.
We'd followed each other on Insta,
Okay.
and I DM'd him a little bit,
Okay.
trying to work my way in on a
Yeah.
Dylan Friends appearance or
Yeah,
something.
he's a pod father. He's a king of
He's a
podcasting
king.
in this country.
Yeah.
So
He's got his finger in all sorts of pies.
Well, actually, on that, I know you guys interviewed him the other day.
Don't say this.
No, I have to. So the introduction was a ripper.
Yeah.
And you described him as the white whale. Last week when we interviewed Tommy Sheridan, someone used that introduction on Tommy.
You know how you use that? You know how you had that caption? It was in my head, right?
Yeah.
It was stuck in my head, and then Doss said, "Oh, who have we got today?" And then it just slipped out of my mind, out of my mouth. I just said, "Oh, we've got the white whale," and then straight away I'm like, "Oh, I've just stolen it."
Well, I've done a lot worse than that. I once watched a Jim Jeffries stand-up comedy routine, right?
Oh, come on.
This is bad.
Anyway, yeah, and this is a shocker. So I watched the routine, and it was my favourite stand-up, but I didn't watch it for a couple of years or whatever. And then there was this certain, in conversation, a topic came up, and off the cuff, without even thinking it was a Jim Jeffries routine, I just dealt out this like word for word as if it was my own, and everyone was pissing themselves. And then I thought, gee, that's really good gear. So then I started using it more and more regularly in conversation circles until one person went, "Mate, are you kidding? That's Jim Jeffries." And I went, "Holy shit! I swear I wasn't copying it deliberately. I had no idea.
Oh my god,
Stealing his material."
Yeah, and you can't do that. Like in like stand up, it's like sacrosanct that you can't steal material. Did you see James Corden the other night?
With Ricky Gervais?
Yeah, James
No, I
Corden.
didn't.
Yeah, one of his writers stitched him up by using a Ricky Gervais.
Was it one of his writers that did that?
Well, it would have been. Yeah, because apparently he's not the best host and not the
he's
best
turned
bloke.
heel lately.
Yeah, he has. He
He
has.
has. So apparently, like one of the writers has written it for him, slipped it under, so James didn't know, and he's just done one of Ricky Gervais's most famous acts, word for word on the Night
was
Show.
shocking.
And like you watch it and you go, "Oh, it might be sort of similar, but not the same." It's the exact
Word
same.
for
It was
word.
really, really cringy.
And it was an inside job as well.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but I think it's really sort of weird because like I've done like
Stand up before, have you?
A little bit.
Dabbled in
I've
it.
done a little
Dave
bit
Chappelle.
of done a little bit of stand up, but I've grown up with like this old school sort of stand up mentality where you don't steal stuff. But in this TikTok world, like content is stolen all the time without
Yeah.
credit, and it's really really dangerous. Where I reckon like in 10 years, there's going to be like comedians that just think that that's the thing to do, which is a little bit
That's a good point. That is a good point. That's how TikTok's created. It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
People
white,
jumping on trends.
the white whale, deal?
Deal. So yeah, he gave me a buzz. He said, "I've been chatting with Spotify for the last 5 or 6 months. Do you want to do a show?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So we were planning it over the summer, and yeah, ripped into it this year. Rogie was always a part of the show, but sort of his role grew as the season went on, and yeah, the back half of the year was so much fun. Like I felt like we found our groove, found our hands a little bit, and
At
yeah.
the start of the podcast, we thought that we were like, because we will have an hour and a half phone call during the week without even thinking about it. And because we're such big footy nuffies, it's almost like you're listening to On the Couch,
it's riveting. Like the access and it's just riveting.
except we don't have On the Couch minds. So it's like the layman going really deep dive into footy.
Yeah.
And at the start of the podcast, we thought, all right, that's what it was. It was us analysing games of footy.
Like pub nuffy chat.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
The mates at the pub.
And that was
Exactly.
the goal initially.
But it wasn't, at the end of the day, it wasn't really that insightful because we aren't experts. What we're saying might not even be real or
Yeah.
true. And it wasn't even that funny either because we were going that analytical. We weren't allowing that much room for gags. So in the last sort of 6 weeks, we managed to really find our hands, which is what Steve Smith says. Like when he finds his hands and he starts
Yeah,
hitting the
that's
ball well. We found our hands and we found our groove and we know exactly where we sit. And now I reckon it's an absolute pisser if I may say so myself.
Because,
sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say, because, yeah, like, just to reiterate what Rog said, like, for example, it would be like Brad Scott signed for Essendon, and we'd be saying stuff like, "Oh, Brad Scott didn't finish in the top 4 in the last 10 years." And, like, we're bringing that to the table, but it's just regurgitating what every football fan knows.
May as well be listening to SEN.
But, like, Mitch Cleary would say, Brad Scott hasn't, top 4 in 10 years, but he's also done this. He'd add like things that other people don't know, and it's actually breaking news and it's actually like insightful. So we got stuck sort of regurgitating just the most obvious things ever. So now, yeah, we're coming at it as a bit more of a planned, like funnier angle. Like we were trying to find the funny while we were just chatting naturally, and now we're sort of like really attacking that funnier side and trying to make it just a little bit silly as well.
So for that example, instead of just talking about Brad Scott and his credentials, we were like, all right, so Brad Scott's left at the head of the AFL. which means there's a spot open up and you can be the rule changer. You can change whatever you want about the game. And so we planned, all right, McDonald, what changes would you make to the AFL? And we made it like if you were the chief and commander, and we changed it up a bit. So just to plan, taking that extra bit to plan and find an angle.
Aspect.
Yeah, and be entertaining is something. But that's what a first season's for. As you boys would know, in your first few episodes, you know, like...
we've changed heaps too.
Yeah.
Like, massive. Well, we were having coffee this morning in a meeting and we were talking about, we've been doing this nearly 3 years and it's changed, like, it just keeps evolving. And you evolve with the audience too and what works and what doesn't. But what was your favourite episode that you guys did? Like, who was your favourite interview over the course of this year?
There was one that we felt like we really hit every mark, and that was probably the Jack Ginnivan.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. Yeah.
But just the timing and everything happens for a reason, as Roger invented.
Yeah, well done, Rod.
Thank you. Frame it.
It'll be on the wall next time we come in. So we were trying to get Jack on the pod for a little while, and we'd had some conversations with him over social media. But it was sort of in between the Cane Corns and Anzac Day, stuff for him. So Cane Corns had sort of called him out, and it was just after that, but it was just before Anzac Day where he kicked 5 and exploded onto the scene. And I remember watching that game going...
Did he win the medal that day?
He won the medal.
Anzac
Kicked
Day
5,
medal.
shushed Essendon
Yeah, that was
supporters.
great.
The small forward,
Had
late draft pick.
Had the blonde hair.
Yeah.
He was still on the rookie. Was
Was he really?
I think he's still... He might be elevated now, but he was on the rookie
Jeez,
list
you'd
last
hope he's
year.
elevated now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, yeah, we were trying to get him for a while. Once he kicked 5, I remember watching that going, I don't reckon we'll get him now. Like, he's now like an absolute star, but we kept chipping away. Weeks weren't quite lining up. And then we got him the week... It was like the height of like him doing the ducking. And it was like when the AFL had changed the rules. It was like in between around then.
I'm of the belief we've changed the game of AFL forever. Kate and I, because what happened?
Outrageous Connor Rogers claims.
He came on the podcast. He came on the pod, and before that, and people were like starting to complain about how he ducks for free kicks. He came on the pod, and we asked him about it, and he goes, "Yeah, like it's become a real tool that I used to get free kicks. Like he said something like, I've kicked 10 goals already this year just by ducking my head
Yeah,
down.
and he was talking about like the mechanics and
Like how he almost trains for it.
Well, that video came out.
Yeah.
That video, who was he with? I can't remember.
Jack
but he was
Madgen.
teaching Jack Madgen how to do it.
So then all that happened, and then Mitch Cleary ran with it on Channel 7 News.
Good friend of yours, Mitch Cleary.
Yeah.
Crystal Cleary.
Yeah.
We love Crystal Cleary.
he's a gun.
Anyway, so he confessed to playing for the high free kick on our pod. Then the week after, they changed the rule because of the uproar, the furor, and said if you play for the high free kick, it's no longer high. So
So it was like we had Jack on the podcast, and then he went and played against North, and there was a lot of speculation about it. That was when they stopped. They were sort of half not paying it. They were paying it but not paying it. It was when Luke Davies-Uniacke just coat hangers in. And then the podcast comes out, and he played Adelaide in the wet, and that's when he did the celebration. Nick Dacos kicked 3, kicked a couple, and they were paying it but not paying it. So it went from this guy's ducking to this guy's not really getting the free kicks, and then the AFL tweaked the rule just after that. So it was pretty crazy. And then he went through weeks where he was just getting headhunted for no reason.
Yeah.
I remember I went to the Essendon Collingwood game later in the year.
Well, yeah,
and Mason Redmond
that's the
coat
one.
hanging him.
I was
seeing
red.
I couldn't believe it
because and it's funny when you get to know someone like we've been lucky enough to hang with Guinea a couple times now, and he's just the best player. Like just such a genuine fella, loves his footy nuffy, So it really hurt me deeply, frustrated me to see a bloke who has come from nowhere, real big ultimate underdog, because it's not like he's the best athlete ever, just loves his footy, massive footy nuff, kicking goals and celebrating, changing the way people look at footballers. He's coming out of his shell, and he's just a boy that loves his footy, and he's getting absolutely harassed by not just the fans, but now the umpires. I felt like we're bullying him, really having it out for him. So it frustrated me, but then I'm glad that the conversation changed and people started saying, hang on, he's actually being hard done by here. And then it started swinging back in his favour a little bit.
So, we had tried to get Guinea on the pod for a while, and then when we got him, it was let's really make the most of it. So we did some post-pod social media stuff that we felt like we really hit quite well. Played some numbers games with him and put out some TikToks.
I love those numbers games.
They were great.
Yeah. So doing extra stuff like that, I feel like is really massive for podcasts, getting that little bit extra. So we nailed that. We nailed our questions. We nailed the chat with him. what we felt. Like we got him out of his shell. We got to hear a little bit about him, and it was one of the most successful podcasts that we did. But that's on the back of like his star power. It's off the back of like Collingwood Football Club star power. But it was also like a little bit mixed in was how well we sort of like prepared and got it done. So. Yeah, that was my favourite one.
What's it like being working for the Podfather then, right? Dylan Buckley gives you a buzz. You got your best mate, Rog. You come into the studio every Monday. You go and get your toasty in the morning.
Yeah.
You walk into the studio and there's probably Goz and Dill and a few others. What kind of operator is he like? Is he a funny bloke? Is he smooth? Is he a bit of a hard ass? What is he?
Like a mixture of all, but mainly just like very lighthearted.
Remember, they're doing talks, so too hard
Contract negotiations.
Yeah.
Nah, he's great. Like, it's just amazing. Like, we're trying to become a good sports podcast, and we're in an environment where Dill runs like the best sports podcast in Australia, potentially. Like, it's definitely up there.
Well, the charts say it. That's true.
Well, yeah,
The charts don't lie.
No, they don't. So yeah, it's amazing. It feels like incredible going in, and just some of the conversations we've had over the time where like he'll give feedback and he
Stop talking about Brekkie boys.
Yeah, literally.
yeah. So yeah, but they're sort of less on like direct feedback, but he'll chuck in ideas. Like he's the most like inspiring ideas man you'll ever come across. So
that's awesome.
You see the wheels turning in his head as you're speaking to him.
Everything.
And he'll out of nowhere, he'll just come up with another idea and go, oh, that's a great idea. Not even about our podcast. It'll just be some great business idea. And I know me personally, he's the biggest doer ever.
Yeah.
You know, he's not a fan of talk, he's a fan of doing. And early on in the year, I made some sort of gag and he said, have you ever thought about doing stand-up? And I did my usual, I've thought about doing it for ages. I've done like one open mic. It's something that, I definitely want to do.
Talk about the trivia night. You do that every week.
Yeah, do me trivia 2-3 times a week. It's turned into a bit of an institution. Wednesday night at the Rochester Hotel in Fitzroy. It's packed. We're getting over 100 people every night and it absolutely explodes. It's an electric vibe.
We need to get down there.
Yeah, we do.
You would. You'd absolutely love it. It's not too far from here.
Hottest ticket in town.
It is, absolutely. But yeah, I brought up the stand-up to Dill, but in a way of like, something that I want to do. And he goes, mate, if you don't do one in the next like 3 weeks, I'm going to be really disappointed in you. And just book it and do it and I'll come. So I booked it in like 2-3 weeks later and absolutely loved it. So he's just such a supportive, person.
So with your sweet spot, because we've interviewed some AFL players over this year, but they've all been retired, so they can basically talk about whatever they want. But with you guys, excuse me, you're talking to current players. So what's the scrutiny levels? Do you have to deal with clubs and do you have to deal with players? And do they say, boys, we can't talk about this, and this, or is it all systems go?
we've never had a player, so you can't talk about anything. We go straight to the players, which is sort of a blessing and a curse. Like, potentially they do see the DM, but I like to tell myself that I get lost in the riffraff sometimes because I'll DM some players with big accounts that like some players I can tell don't go through their requested messages. So it can be quite hard to get in contact, but we seem to manage quite well throughout the year and we built some really good connections this year that means next year should be bigger and better. But yeah, I guess like we never want to hang any players out to dry. We don't want to get players on and turn what they say into an out of context clip or anything.
And I'm sure Dill, because we've done some work with Tommy Sheridan this year, and he's the same. He's like, just boys, remember that the players are first. Like they're the ones you want actually watching and engaging with you. So don't hang them out to dry. Don't make them look like shit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Dill's influence on that would be pretty key as well.
Well, yeah, and we just want to celebrate them as well.
Yeah.
So like getting them on and, we don't want to ask hard hitting. We're not really interested in it. Like we do want to hear their point of view about like some topics that might be a little bit hard to sort of access these players. Like we want to break down the wall, but we don't want to drill them on it. So I feel like just making a fun, lighthearted 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And even like make it accessible for the younger boys as well. Like I don't mind if we become like a beacon for these first to second year players to practice media and practice podcasts.
That's a good point.
It's so much fun getting like, your Marcus Windhager's in the week before they win the Rising Star.
Yeah.
Like your Harry Sheasel's in when he's a 17-year-old kid that has a spare and has to go back to school. Like we love, picking their brain as well and just making it like a fun environment for them.
Well, Roger, all right, down the barrel, who have you DM'd
Yeah.
that has said no or hasn't? Maybe they've seen the DM. What are you saying to them down the barrel? As in, get it coming on goes all right. What's one player that maybe you've shot a message to? Who you want? Who hasn't come through back or hasn't come back yet? Who do you want? Who do you want?
Oh, that hasn't come back.
Is it like a Baz Lanka type?
Oh, yeah,
So if we
definitely.
could pick anyone to come on, who would it be?
Look down the camera.
Who have you DM'd that hasn't replied that you want on?
Well,
I have DM Baz Lanka.
Come on, Baz.
Come on, Baz.
Wouldn't that be good, Bailey Smith? There's one that that we would really like to get on. I think that maybe didn't come on when we thought he was going to come on. That's Jamara. We'd love for Jamara to come in.
I would love
Would be
that
handy.
as
The
a
Doggies
doggies
boys. We love the Doggies boys.
Yeah, we do.
But
But we don't like the big stars. They're good, and we like obviously it'd be mint if we get a Baz Lanka on.
Yep.
It was sick getting a Jack Ginnivan on. But we like when I say we, Caden does all the DMing because he has the big platform that really makes him see it.
Yours is growing.
Yeah,
Yours
that's
is
right.
growing, yeah.
But Jack Ginnivan, when we asked him to come on, he wasn't Jack Ginnivan yet. He wasn't the big thing. So we like don't get me wrong, the big stars are awesome, but just about my favourite bit of the pod is getting a Trent Bianco on.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
we have a bit of a mantra of like making them look better than when they came in. So like we'll pump them up, but not necessarily in a way of like, oh, he's an absolute superstar. Like it's more like we'll pick something like Trent Bianco, real smooth mover. We'll be like the smoothest mover in the game, silky, and really pump him up. So to an audience that like if you're not a Collingwood supporter might not be that familiar with Trent Bianco, we get him on, we pump him up, and hopefully a lot more people are aware of him and get behind him. So that's the part of it that I really get around.
Last night I actually was down at Glenferrie Oval. I saw CJ from Hawthorn.
Superstar.
He'd be a good
He's
one.
a jet.
He'd be
Yeah,
he'd have a
CJ
pretty
would
good
be
story, I
great.
reckon. So,
Absolutely.
so I want to ask about nuffies, from your own point
You're
of
looking
view.
at two of them.
So
It's a four-way.
on the nuffy scale, where do you guys sit? Like direct feedback to yourselves, but to your, companion either side of you.
Yeah.
1 to 10.
Well, Caden, I would have said was in and around, around the same as me, like a 7 or an 8, because we're not a 10 full enough. We're not at the game.
Well,
you
what
know.
cheer squad?
We're
We're not getting kicked
So
out.
what's a 10 then?
A 10's getting
cheer squad, and you're there every week.
face paint. You still wear a Guernsey.
Interstate.
Yeah, you wear a Guernsey even though you're like 50 and overweight and your guts are hanging out.
Thank you. I hate the Guernsey.
And you get in arguments on Facebook.
Yeah, like that's a full blown 10 out of 10 nuffy.
Which we love.
We love
We
that.
need them.
We need
We
them.
love the passion.
Absolutely love them.
But I would have thought we hovered in around like, a 7.8, somewhere
Yeah.
like that. But Caden, I think, has sort of worked his way gradually up to an 11 with one of the manoeuvres he pulled during the week. He was on surfing the World Wide Web.
Is this an exclusive?
Yeah, a bit of an exclusive, surfing the World Wide Web. And he came across a Pep Guardiola video of the coach of Manchester City.
Yep.
And he was talking to the Manchester City boys about, who was he
He's talking to Rio Ferdinand about how you reinvent a team for sustained success. So Manchester City have been up winning titles for the last 6 years,
Yeah.
Champions Leagues titles, and it's this great chat where Pep looks at Rio and says, you need to reinvent. Like you can't use the same players. If it's the same players the following year, they will not get it done. You need to move. You need to be at the forefront of reinventing this team.
That's a ripping Pep Guardiola.
That was a
by the way.
great-
Well done. That's
great
a
presentation.
fantastic-
Terrible
That's
at
a really
accents.
good Pep.
No, I was impressed.
It's the best pep talk I've ever seen.
So I saw that, and one of the criticisms that Melbourne had this year was it was almost the same 24-25 squad that got rolled out this year. So it was almost the same team that won the flag.
No reinvention, no
So we
innovation.
got Cade Chandler, we got Toby Bedford in the twos, we got Jacob Van Rooyen, Jake Bowie was playing twos, and they were sort of playing like Jaden Hunt all year. Like there was opportunities to bring some fresh faces and reinvent and change the side up, give us a different look, and we didn't go with it. So
I get a message from DOS. So one night saying,
This is Cados.
this is Cados, yeah. I get a message from Cados one night saying, I've just emailed Simon Goodwin.
You're kidding.
What do you mean you've emailed Simon Goodwin? What Have you what? You've asked him for dinner. You've asked him, what are you doing?
Is he coming on the pod? What is it? Yeah.
So I felt like deeply compelled to send Goody this clip of Pep
pep talk.
Guardiola saying that because I'm like
kidding me.
I'm like, if someone's gonna get this, Simon Goodwin would love to watch this clip. So I cut out the 15-second part, but I also sent the 15-minute interview.
And it's not like you already had Simon Goodwin's email
No, of
anyway.
course not.
Like any
Oh,
workplace,
you had to outsource it.
Yeah.
No, well,
like at any workplace, if we're working at Producy, it's just connor.rogers@producy.com. And Caden had emails from
the
other
social
people he's
media
contacted
team.
at
So I
Melbourne.
just sub some
It's such a
names.
great trick.
Simon.goodwin@melbourne or whatever it
And
is.
the fir-
.com.au.
Should we beat that out?
Yeah, it was something like that, and it went through. So
Any
no
reply.
feedback. But
that
I
is
just
so good.
for some I was sitting there and I'm like, I just need to know that he's seen this.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to, he can take whatever he wants.
Do you reckon
out
he
of it.
knows who you are?
I reckon he
He's-
does.
He does.
I
I reckon he
does.
does.
Yeah, he
I reckon
does.
I think he does.
But like, as if he's going to sit there, see this Pep Guardiola pep talk and go,
15 minutes
I
worth.
better put Van Rooyen in this week, actually.
Oh, so
Bad
what
luck,
stage
Benny
of the
Brown.
season was this? Or was this...
No, this is postseason.
Oh,
I'm saying
it's
if we're
postseason.
going
Gotcha,
into next
gotcha.
Maybe he
year.
hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think
I'm sure he will. He'll listen. I'm sure he's an avid listener of Dawson
he
Day.
is,
He'll
absolutely,
hear this
yeah.
and go through the spam box. And
Yeah.
What you watched the reinvention of
yeah,
the Melbourne Demons.
I think I've crossed the threshold.
What about Rog? On a scale, I know you said you're probably around a 7.8. What's the nuffiest thing you've seen him do, and where's he sitting on the scale?
The nuffiest. Oh,
I mean, you've just been hanging out with Paddy Cripps. Was there
So
anything?
Rogers,
last
I
few
should
days?
say, Rogers Carlton.
Yeah.
No, he's been really cool with Cripper, and it's been good to watch because Roger's just good at small talk with anyone.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm not. So Rog, he's been handling himself pretty well. I think him hopping on Dwayne's World on SEN, midday, and just giving some feedback about.
Dwayne's World's my favourite program of any variety.
Is it really?
Ever.
So you're talking not as a guest of the show, as a
caller.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not like, so correspondent Connor Rogers from Goes Up. Like, we have a football podcast where you can vent all these things.
Yeah.
You've got your own audience.
But he calls up Talkback Radio.
He wants the over 50s to hear it.
Just to flesh out his frustrations with the club. So that's up there.
Hey, what did Dwayne have to say? Was he?
Well, I've only, and I think this is what your 20s are for, but I've only recently
Gary Busey.
started. Yeah, I've only recently started getting better at accepting that. Even though I'm certain my point of view is right, other people have different points of view. And from their point of the world, it may also be right. It's not that I'm wrong or they're wrong. It's that there are multiple rights in
It's
any...
an intelligent way to look at it.
Yeah, but initially when I started calling up SEN, I didn't have that point of view, and I was a bit of my point of view. I know is right in my context, and I couldn't accept that their point of view could be right in their context. So I was like, the most passionate I got was was about when there was a couple of draws. And there was a lot of conversation about should we have draws in the game or should there be like some sort of a penalty shootout, like a goal shootout type operation.
Imagine that.
But I was there. I was passionate going, the set shot goal kicking is such a small part of football. Like football's such a broad game. It wouldn't be right to settle it with just one aspect of it. And I went on and I tried to explain to Dwayno, this is what we need to push. Ring Gillen. Because how it should work is it's like a penalty shootout, 5 shots each, but you pick 2 attackers, 1 defender. So by the attackers, I mean one person is at the top of this like 70 metres with the ball and he's your kicker. And 2 blokes. So say you pick your kicker is Sam Walsh and our forward is Harry Mackay for the first kick. Then they pick their defender to man up Harry Mackay. All of a sudden now you've got a kick inside 50, which is a big part of the game. You've got defending going in for the spoil. You've got marking. If it hits the deck, you got to go pick the ball up, take him on. You've got on the ground, it encapsulates
Technical.
it all.
Sounds very full on.
But you've got that 5 times, just one-on-one kicks into the
It's like
soft-
gladiators.
But think
It's-
about it,
it is
though.
like
But
gladiators,
they're already cooked.
Yeah.
Like
That adds the element of
Yeah.
True.
And I think that and imagine like, okay, so we've done Harry Mackay. Next up, we'll go like Corey Durden, a small forward. So they go a small defender. Maybe you drill it in across the ground and you back him in to get the ground ball. And it's just a 1v1 inside 50. And I'm like, this is what the game needs. And yeah, I went on Dwayne's World. I went full nuff. And because that...
I was going to say, I feel like I've just gone into a nuffy world just in the last 3 minutes.
Because that idea, in my head, it's so simple. You just have like kicking inside 50 to a 1-on-1. It's not hard. But to explain it takes...
Yeah.
And like they were sort of
100%.
like, nah, too much. And I'm like, no, Dwayno, it's not too much.
Listen to me.
There's merit here.
The
There's
one-on-one
merit.
is the hardest thing at
Yeah.
footy training. Like when you need punishment.
Exactly
the
right.
one-on-one in a big arc and you guys get the ball back to me. Well, in this case, either
Yeah.
get it over the boundary line or...
Yeah.
get it
But even a goal kicking comp after like or however many minutes of the game, they're pretty cooked. Even having it, blokes are that cooked to even have a set shot during the game, and they spray them.
Yeah.
Imagine at the end of the game.
Could you see that happening though one day? Could you see it going to a penalty shootout style? Do you reckon? No, I
Nah.
don't reckon either.
I actually like the draw too.
I like the draw.
I love the draw.
I think
Me
if
too.
after like 2 hours of gameplay, you still can't decide who's 1 point ahead, then the points should be split. I don't
Yeah.
know if we need to go to something to.
2:30 p.m. grand final and a draw. That's all I care
Yeah.
about.
I'm a Twilight man. I'm
you're
a
a Twilight
Twilight
man?
grand
Yeah,
final
Twilight.
man.
Oh, yeah?
I don't
Yeah.
like the night. I like the
The
Twilight.
American sort of style.
Yeah, well, not necessarily because it's American, but I like that it's sunny when the game starts and it's nightfall when the game ends. The entertainment, like everything. I've said this to Cados a million times. Everything's better at night. Like you have a party, you have it at night. Like events, like concerts are at night.
True.
There is something about the night atmosphere that makes
Yeah.
you want to fall in love and have a good time.
And the 2 grand finals that were at night time during COVID, it was so long. It was so long to wait till 7
Yeah, I
o'clock.
agree.
But
Was.
then this grand final crept up on me. Like I sort of moseyed out of bed around 10:30. I sort of just
Tried your day.
sat on TikTok for a little bit, and all of a sudden it's like 12:30, and I'm like, well, if I don't get to the barbecue and have a couple of drinks,
I need to go to the bottle.
like
Yeah.
the game will be on.
Yeah.
So it sort of crept up on me, the 2 o'clock game.
And
So
I
the
was
4 could be perfect.
I was the barbecuer, and which is funny because I was the only veggie, but it was at my house with like 10 of my mates, and I was the only one that was willing to cook the barbie because it was at my joint. And it was a real awkward one because the game starts at 2:30, so everyone came over at like about 1, and by the time I'd mingled with everyone, the game had already started.
And you started cooking.
And I loved the pre-match entertainment, so it got to like 2 o'clock, and I'm like, oh shit, I better start the barbie. But the entertainment was on, and I'm like, well, I'm
Especially
not going to
with
cook
Robbie.
the barbie. I need to watch Robbie. So then I didn't start cooking till half time, but then I missed all the half time stuff.
Interesting.
So if the game's twilight, it gives us plenty of time to get around.
Yeah, the barbecue at 2,
Yeah.
and then the game at 4.
Yeah.
I reckon it's perfect.
You know what? This year, actually, that would have been the perfect year for it because I actually had a wedding on this year's grand final day.
That-
And not that I missed much, I know. It was a shocking game.
That should be
Illegal.
Like I feel like swearing.
Interstate.
Swear. You're allowed to
So
swear.
they're not Victorians. They're
No excuses.
Queenslanders. So you're talking rugby.
We've had a couple of like Bucks parties in September, and I've called it from like January. I go, that's finals. Like that's finals. Like one of our team will have a prelim, or like, what are we doing? What are we doing
Have you
here?
heard the story? Stuart Cramery, when he was at the Doggies, he
yeah.
just got delisted, I think, after 15. But he had his wedding booked for grand final day on 2/16.
That is
So he had all the
worst-
Doggies boys were invited, and they made the granny.
Yeah, that is the worst idea I've ever heard of in my
Oh,
life.
it makes me mad.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I used to always think like if I have kids or like even I was thinking about getting married. Like as a teenager, I'm like, all right, I just got to get married between say October and like February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, I even started planning the 6 month because I'm like, oh, imagine if she wants a 6 month anniversary kind of thing. Okay,
Yeah,
this can't
true.
fall on this date. Like, yeah, I'm with you. But talking on that Nuffy chat, it reminded me because one of my mates is a Carlton fan, and he used to write into the club every year
Really?
because he got hold of an email as a kid,
Ah,
right?
good man.
So he wrote in and he got some bumper stickers back, but he used to write like these, like you know those like
Yeah.
child writes to the club. Oh yeah, here you go, mate. Have some stickers. And
Yeah,
away
it's
you
like
go.
writing a letter to Santa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but he kept this email address, and he used to write every year all the players he wanted delisted. And the reason
That's
why.
another level.
Now he started,
That's no good.
and he started this at like age 12, and he went through until he was about I think 19 or 20 until they blocked him.
Did he get some validation maybe? Because he would have said like, oh, these players, and just by coincidence, I'm sure some of them would have got delisted. And he might have felt like, I played a part to play in this.
maybe he did.
Just like when Goody starts rolling some new plays through, Caden will be like, you watched the video. I'm telling
When
you.
you know it's like
when Van Roy and Kate Chandler start round 1 next year, I'm going to be like, oh,
Well, it's like I don't know if
I've
you've
got
heard
some
this, but the Simpsons, for example, right? They're not legally obliged to open letters from the fans in case someone's put a storyline and they use the story and then they come and try to sue them.
Really?
Have you heard that? Yeah.
No.
So then they
That
say,
makes
oh,
sense.
if there's a story that's like even remotely close, the fan could say, hey, I came up with that story. So,
Yeah.
so to avoid that, they don't open letters.
When I was like 13, 14, 15, whatever, early high school, I wrote I was a rapper at the time. I was passionate.
what did you go with? What was your name?
My name, so I had two originally. The first one, my name's Connor Rogers, initial CR. So it was just CR.
Don't say 7.
Iminal, so I was like criminal. Like,
Not
it's a
bad,
CR.
not bad.
No, but then it got a bit better, a bit more intricate, a bit like the 5-on-5 goal kicking sort of after the siren stuff. Capital CRHYME. So it's crime, and it has rhyme in it, which rappers do.
That's clever.
And it had my initials CR, so I was like,
You're a wordsmith.
But then my mate's taking the piss out of me, called me CR Heim instead of instead of crime. But yeah, no. So I wrote a rap song. And I sent it through to 360 thinking, hey, mate, like if you need some material for the new album, here's one for you. You can put this on the extended long play.
Where do I sit on the scale, you reckon?
Doss has gotten better, but he was enough. Oh, no, you're still enough. I mean, you're enough with, we were talking about A-League earlier. Like, this was funny. The start of the year.
You're an A-League nuff.
He was getting stuck into some Melbourne City fans because...
Yeah, that's nuts.
This is embarrassing.
That's not good.
What's
That's
the bloke's...
not good.
I've just forgotten the bloke's
Brisha?
Brisha...
I don't know. But it's not
Bessart.
Bessart. No, it's not him.
Oh, you're kidding?
No, but this is the
I could have
confusion.
What's his
sworn.
surname?
I can't
Son.
remember.
No, it's Brisha.
Yeah,
isn't it? That's
Brisha.
his surname. Yeah, so Melbourne City had posted this new signing, right?
Yeah.
And
But they've cut his head off. So you...
They cut his head off.
No, you know.
That can't be productive.
It was before they announced it. So it was like the build-up. So, you know, you can't see whose face it is. You
He's
can
going to
only
be
see
he's going to be shit out at corners.
because
think he takes him, actually.
Because Doss is one of those guys on social media. He reads the comments and sometimes he can't help himself but to get involved. He tries so hard not to react, and most of the time he's pretty good, but occasionally slips through. And I just saw Doss blow up on this Melbourne City post because everyone's like, oh, Bessart Barisha's going to sign Melbourne City. Doss is actually going, no, he's retired and he's living here. And the funniest thing was all these nuffies were dead right. So there was a guy called Barisha that Melbourne City were about to sign.
Right.
Different
different
Barisha.
Brisha.
Different
Oh,
player. So
no, you've been
he
undone.
looked like the idiot, which
Yeah.
was, and I
no.
called him out on that. But
That's funny.
Doss
That's funny.
Doss used to ride in as a kid. So Western Bulldogs fan, he is. Andreas Everett, do you remember him?
I
Yeah.
do. Carlton, former Carlton
Yeah, number
superstar.
three.
of course.
Very stiff to get delisted. Mick Malthouse actually said it was
Agreed.
his biggest regret in football is
Andreas Everett.
because he recruited him with the big promise of you're going to be a gun, and he did play decent footy. But then Malthouse got sacked. We got a new coach in and wanted to sack all of our old players and just keep the young ones. So Andreas came across with a promise of a long-term player, basically. Got played, and then
He was at the
Malthouse
Swans
out.
before. You remember
Yeah.
that? He's played for
Yeah.
Doggies, Swans and Carlton.
Yeah,
What
he's
a
one of those
career.
Forgotten players of the
That's
2000s.
a great for the logo
That would
game.
have been ripper.
For the what?
The logo
number?
game.
No, we
the
do a
logo.
logo game where we
Yeah, you give
put-
the teams that they play.
So that I don't reckon I would have got Andreas.
is he Sydney
Everett.
as well? Is he Sydney?
Yeah.
I just
Sydney.
said that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Come on,
Yeah.
switch
Yeah,
on.
yeah, switch
Come
on,
on.
switch on. But Bulldogs were running this segment on their
Website.
at the time, and it was called Ask Andreas, right? So you could write in as a kid. And we somehow, at high school, we were Googling each other's names just to see what comes up. So you Googled Wade Custerson, right? And the first thing that came up in the search engine wasn't Facebook or MySpace. It was Ask Andreas, Western Bulldogs.
Really?
What the hell's going on? So then we clicked on it, and you could see all these questions to Andreas, and he'd respond. But they would have the name of the person and then the age. So you're seeing like Michael, 7. Tilly, 8. And then just like halfway down, Wade, 14. it was like double the age of anybody.
That's
so,
great.
That's great.
Yeah, he's quite high on the Nuffy scale.
But my question was specific, Acca's 300th was this year. It was very disappointing to lose it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it wasn't like, what's your favourite food? It was like,
Yeah.
You've gone proper journo,
Yeah,
mode.
journo.
Like, yeah.
Did he respond to you?
no, he didn't.
No, he
Nah. Well, I reckon you sit on the scale.
Not anymore.
Nah, but he was up there for a few years.
I'm
He
the
was-
least
You,
Nuffy.
you
ever
gave it
screwed.
away, didn't you?
I gave it away.
Mate, he
I
actually
gave it away.
cancelled his Saints membership the day Brett Ratton got sacked.
Did you?
By coincidence, it was because I'm sick of it. I've been saying for 3 years I'm cancelling my membership. Sick of this.
Yeah.
Right? And they do the direct debit on the same day, and I'm like, not this year.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
this year. Not this year. And then it just so happened that the last day to cancel it was like an hour. When I got on the phone, an hour before that,
Yeah.
they just announced that Brett Ratton got the sack. So
Yeah.
they asked, any specific reason you're cancelling this membership? And I was thought, should I say Brett Ratton? I thought, no, just leave him alone.
The Saints could either, get Ross Lyon in and he does what he did with Freo and they sort of bob up and, because they've been in that 10th spot waiting.
They could
to
make the
pounce.
8.
Yeah, they could finish, I think, like a 5th or 6th. Or the way they're sort of talking about, like, oh, no, we need a couple of drafts. Like, we don't have any A graders. It sounds like that they might slide back for a little bit. And that,
I don't give a shit either way.
that would be
Yeah.
a killer.
I feel so sorry for St Kilda fans because even though like being a Carlton supporter and I've seen just about the most like miserable 20 years of football. It'd be like in the bottom 6 miserable 20 years of football for any club ever. Like it's been that bad. Like 3-4 wooden spoons
Yeah.
or whatever. And the highest we've got is like an elimination final win. Like
I think before they won all the flags, I reckon Richmond was pretty close with you as well.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Run the D's.
So
And the
but,
Ds,
but
yeah.
even with that, the years of like the rebuild with Murph Gibbs Cruiser, then we go back down and a feeling of hopelessness. I still had in the back of my head we're the Carlton Footy Club. Like, we will eventually, I know for a fact, give it 30 years, we will have won a premiership. But with St Kilda, I think there's a vibe of there's nothing close to a guarantee that by the end of the time I die, we'll see a premiership. You know, we could go at 70 years without winning another flag.
You'd hope we're wrong.
I always used to think Saints were cursed, but go the early Crows. So just pick your team. Where are they finishing next season? Start with you, Cados.
The D's will finish second again.
And how far into September?
I'd be shattered if this group didn't at least make another granny. So I reckon
Really?
they'll at least make it.
So you don't. Okay.
Actually, I have to say, Nuffy, I laughed when you posted about Luke Jackson leaving. It was like, don't leave.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Well, generational talent.
Yeah.
And what I hate is like 6 months ago, before the big contract got brought up from Freo, it's like, oh, this 20-year-old kid who's taking hangers and commanding half the ruck work and kicking Gorney out of the ruck position, and he's pretty good. And then it's like, Luke Jackson might be poached for $1 million. Oh, he's shit. No, he's not that good. And then like all this like hate and like people are ripping. He's a star. He's going to be multiple Australian. He's an absolute gun. So to lose him for what we lost him for was frustrating. But the way they sort of worked Brody Grundy into the mix, like he said that 2
hell
years
did they
ago.
do that?
Genius.
That is a ludicrous.
Genius.
I think it's been underrated how massive that's going to be. Like, our Carlton's second ruck will be like Jack Silvani, and going against their relief ruckman, which will be Brody Grundy or Max.
But how does the
They're calling
forward
it
thing
Gorney.
work? Because that's the only issue. Gorney
Yeah.
will probably play more forward.
But
Van Royen, they got my email. He'll be up there. And
I
so
haven't even heard this bloke.
Oh, he's a gun. So what we've done really well in previous years was Gorney would float back, and he didn't do that this year. He became like a target up forward. So I hope it's sort of like one rucks and one floats around the back line.
I think what will be so exciting is the long bailout kick, which is just about the most important kick in the game. The long bailout kick down the line.
Yeah.
You will always have Gorn or Grundy there. And with their long kick inside 50, you will always have Gorn or Grundy as a loose man back to take marks. So I think it's going to be absolutely deadly.
And what happens if Petrarca goes down or Oliver goes down? Or
Oh, I think Petrarca's played 100 consecutive games, and
Bulletproof.
he's pretty bulletproof. Touch wood.
It looks like he's cooking. TikTok's probably taking over his footy pretty soon, though.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Well, they are good. No, well, yeah. I just think it would be like an absolute blight on this group if they won one flag and that was it. It would resemble like maybe not as bad, but like that Essendon group where they won one in 2000
Yeah.
and they should have gone on.
They were dominant,
but they
yeah.
didn't. So
Well, I think we were all thinking that after the first 9 rounds, though.
yeah,
You know, they
yeah.
looked pretty unstoppable.
Yeah.
they were cooked though. Like I've never seen a team more cooked towards the back end of the year. And it was like straight set. Like if we made another prelim, it's a tick. It's like
Yeah.
we backed up a flag by making a prelim. Straight sets was, and Brisbane,
I can't believe that. I still can't believe
Shouldn't
that.
have lost that.
the way their fans were carrying on Twitter, like it made my blood boil. Like, they were like rinsing Harrison Petty.
And they were a waste in the prelim.
Yeah.
yeah.
The D's would have put up a... What do you think?
Yeah. Well, it might have saved us from another Geelong smashing. But yeah, I think the D's can finish second.
Blues, Rog?
I am supremely confident we make the top 4, like supremely confident. And I feel like if we had have made finals this year, won the Elim final against Collingwood or whoever we would have played, I would now be sitting in this spot telling you I honestly think we make the grand final. I would have tipped a Carlton-Melbourne grand final. That's
What? Last year?
No, like next year.
Oh,
if
yeah,
we
imagine that.
if we had have won an elimination final last year, like we beat Collingwood in the last round, we beat Collingwood the next week or whatever it would have been, I'd be sitting here saying I reckon we make the grand final. But because it's really hard to go from outside the 8 to making a big dance, just winning a final will be cool. So I really think we make a prelim. I think we're in the best 4 teams next year. We have all the
I'd agree.
There's nothing more to add. There's literally nothing more to add.
Yeah.
So if they don't make finals, doomsday?
Yeah,
That'll be like, it'd be
Catastrophic.
absurd if you're not the
It's
top
literally
8 team.
absurd if we're not in
You'll
the
make
top 8.
finals.
I don't know if you... I couldn't recommend if you're a Carlton supporter more, listen to the Harry Mackay podcast on Dylan Friends. It blew my mind because as a Carlton supporter, when we've been so tragically bad for so long, you think that it's just, okay, well, there's 18 teams. One of them has to be the worst team. Hard to climb the way up. We're just shit, and that's how it is. But hearing him talk about how much the culture has changed and how when he first got to the club, it was a culture of if you do extras, you get sort of not necessarily the piss taken out of the game,
Ashamed.
but people turn their nose up and you're doing
Yeah.
extra work. Now the balance is shifted, and now it's cool to be doing the extra work. So everyone there, like
Yeah.
Crip has already started his preseason training at the footy club, and young kids coming in now see that all the cool kids, all the cool guys are doing extra work. So
Yeah.
they get bred up into that culture. So after listening to that interview, I'm so certain that we bounce right back up.
No, I was just going to say, like, because if you go through rebuild after rebuild and they don't get anywhere, they just sort of regurgitate the same culture that they've had. And that's why, like, they were talking about the Gold Coast Suns, how, like, when it was May, Lynch, Day,
Prestia.
yeah, Prestia, they'd been there for 6 or 7 years and never played finals. So it was, like, hard to bring in, like, another crop underneath them to be taught by these guys that hadn't quite made it. So you need that, like, core group to buck the trend. And then I reckon once you buck the trend and make it, you can build something that has you there for a while. So, like, this next few years for Carlton, and, like, even Melbourne, like, are trying to learn how to be a sustained, successful side. Like, yeah, these next few years for Carlton are massive and could shape the next 10 years, 20 years for the club.
Quick prediction, Dos? Bulldogs?
Doggies. Oh, gosh. The doggies are a hard one.
They are. A real
I reckon
hard
they're
one.
going down.
Nah,
I
disagree.
agree.
Nah, I reckon they're going to finish 7th.
I
I think a semi-final. I think Liam Jones is a massive recruit.
I can't explain how good
Exactly
that
what the
bloke
Dogs
is.
need. But I think Rory Lobb's a mistake.
Well, I'm more excited by like Sam Darcy and that. Like,
Well, that's the issue.
You have that many young guns. Like, I honestly think.
But he's so young.
But
Jamara's so
mate,
young.
the biggest thing, and D can vouch for this, is I was gutted to lose Lockie Hunter. Like when that
He's a
happened,
sneaky little,
I know,
sneaky little
That was
get.
very sneaky.
and
He's gonna be
when
handy.
we lost him, I was like, geez, like it's just depth.
What about Josh Dunkley though?
Oh, well, to be honest, I know he won the BNF, but Dunks can't kick.
Yeah.
His kicking is shocking. Watch him kick.
Yeah.
We're just talking about how much we respect a player.
I know. So I shouldn't say that, but no, I'm upset to lose Dunks. But I
Yeah.
think if any midfield can lose a midfielder, it's the Dogs.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
That's
That
actually a
makes
good
sense.
call. I'm tipping the Dogs a frustrating 12th. Like
Yeah.
a real like.
Don't say that.
I'm with you. Actually,
Yeah.
I was saying to Dos, there's two things with the Dos.
With the Dogs.
With the Dogs.
Two Dosses with it.
That's right. There's two things. It's either the list is overrated and the coach is really good, or the opposite.
Yeah.
Either the
The Bevragino.
Yeah.
that they overrate the coach and the list
Well,
is
Bev,
better than
that's-
it is.
Bevo's under the most pressure.
I love
He
that.
is.
From
He's
you.
on.
really
That's
well
my-
said.
that's-
That was.
That's my thing.
That
we
really
never
struck
said
a-
anything that
Yeah.
profound or
That
goes
was-
right all year.
But
That
you
was-
said that, and I went, "Oh my god, that is beautiful."
Yeah.
That is-
You
Crystal
crop-
clear
crop-
areas.
Got that into episode 1 of next
Yeah, I
season,
will,
boys. You can
actually.
do-
Saints.
Saints, well, I'm like, I don't follow, honestly, I'm not TV, I don't follow them that closely, but
Was Zane Cordy's the biggest recruiter of the
seriously,
year?
Yeah.
the Saints, because
They could go.
well,
Oh,
I'm kind of with
no.
you, but I just see the mathematics, every year, one team jumps from the bottom 8 into the top 4, and I don't really rate the Saints that much, but they were on the cusp, so it wouldn't surprise me if they somehow snuck in a 4th or 5th. However, my prediction is they'll be about 13th.
It'll be interesting to see if the Suns can jump one of the teams that have been hanging around the top 8. For the
Someone's
last
gotta
3 or
jump.
4
Yeah.
years.
Well,
So
that's
like,
the thing.
because there's been teams that have lived between like 10th and 7th for like 5 years,
Yeah.
like the Saints and the Blues, and I guess Freo I'd put in that mix, the Dogs. So it's going to be interesting to see if they, like that core group that have been in the middle, go up, or whether like the Suns will start to like really
Yeah.
take that
It's
lead.
interesting. Well, I mean, who would have thought Collingwood? Like, I didn't.
Yeah.
Dos, I see you've got some questions up
Oh,
there.
all right.
I see that,
Yeah.
but I've got one for you that I came up a couple of days ago that I thought I can't wait to chat to you boys about. I was at the pub hosting trivia, and one of my regular tables who I absolutely love just got back from a trip to Nepal. They climbed Everest. It was like
yeah, wow.
couple guys, couple girls.
Base camp.
Yeah, and it was both of them are in a relationship together, and not the two couples are together, two different couples, and they were climbing Everest, and one of the women couldn't go anymore, had to turn back. And I'm curious to know, in that situation, you and your missus and your best mate and his missus, you're climbing up Everest and the missus goes, I can't go anymore, I turn back. Do you turn back with her, or you've flown all the way to Nepal, your goal is to climb Everest? Do you let her go back by herself, or do you keep climbing, or do you go back down with her?
How
They had like a Sherpa or whatever it's called. Like she was But like,
So she was going to go back with the Sherpa, like couple of day hike type thing to get back.
Yeah, I don't know the exactly how it works, but it was like it's an operation where she walks down to a certain point and gets a helicopter back to like somewhere like. So it's a bit of an operation. It's not like they're 50 meters up and she bails. It's like it's a bit of a journey to get back down.
I would ask why. Like my feet are just in absolute tatters, like blisters, maggots. Like,
are you hungry?
Yeah,
Like, what is
yeah,
it?
yeah. Or whether it's like, oh, this is a bit boring. Like if it was like something like that, I'd be like, pull your finger out. Like we've got to keep charging on. But if it was something like semi-serious, I would actually just go back with them. I'm not fussed about it.
It's dangerous to climb Everest.
Yeah.
So if it's a genuine health concern, you probably have to.
Let's assume it was just like I'm rooted. I don't know if I have it in me to get up. It's not my.
But if that's your life, if it's your life goal,
I mean,
like,
you've spent that costs money to go there. I think it's so expensive.
that hurts my head.
I'm rooted. I'd still probably go back with
Me too.
To be honest, in this scenario with my girlfriend, I would be the one
Yeah,
complaining
yeah.
and almost turning back, and she'd be the one.
What do you reckon Jeep had to do?
She'd probably ditch me. She'd tell you are an idiot.
I think that's the right call. I think
Yeah.
you accept together that like
Have to.
we're here to climb Everest. If we lose someone, okay, you can go back, but we are here to climb Everest.
yeah.
Well, and it's
But it's caused a rift. is
Oh,
what-
see, but you don't have a
You
girlfriend though.
gotta go
yeah.
back.
I've never been in love, so
That's a thing.
Yeah.
See so here's where it gets complicated. Where I don't know how to put this, but how would you feel being the girlfriend and the boyfriend who are keen to go? So like if Connor took off, I'd be understanding. Like I'd be, but if Connor said, "Hey, you guys have to come with us," and I was still keen to go on, that's when it would get weird. Like if Rog was like, "Oh, that's shit," like we're packing it up, and I'd be like, "Oh, come on, Roger."
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting.
No,
dynamic.
I could answer this on both of our behalves. I'm a very understanding person. I don't get. If Dos turned around, I'd say, mate, that's fine, go ahead. But I feel like the other way around, I reckon Dos would be a bit annoyed if I turned around.
Well, as someone who has hiked one of the hardest trails in the world, the Kokoda track, if someone, and I did that with the Shepmates, actually, good friends of ours, but on that, if someone said, "Hey, I want to turn around," like it's not just as easy as turning around.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's a massive deal.
It's actually easier to go forward.
Yeah, it would be easy
We're
to go
almost
up.
nearly there.
Like, so, like, I reckon I would be shitty, but I would, to a point, I would go, all right, if you really want to, that's fine. I'll come, because you're indebted to do that.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to.
Well, that's the Anzac spirit.
I am
Yeah.
storming northwards, like without even thinking about it. Hey,
If it's your life goal, that's a thing. Like I'm thinking of things that I really like. Bucket list things I want to do in my life. Like if someone got cold feet,
And if you really love it,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
might have to.
yeah.
Should we get into the questions? I mean,
Yeah, let's get into it. Next time, we're going to get these boys back on the show to talk about content
Mate.
creation because we didn't even get a chance. But
fucking hell, yeah,
but
we didn't even talk about
We're
content.
going to be going in terms of the spirit of hypothetical questions. The audience has provided some great questions today. So, where do you want to start, mate? You kick
Well,
us
there's,
off.
gosh, which one do I go with? I like this one.
Let's go through them. Give them a
This
shout.
one's directed at Connor.
oh
Who's
beautiful.
it from?
Start with the big dog.
This it's called it's Red Zone. It's Red Stone from It's Red Stone.
It's red.
Has he got a green profile picture?
No, it's a picture of Chandler Bing actually from Friends.
Is he from the UK?
He must have changed it. I've seen him pop up.
Robbie,
Yeah,
I think we're getting.
Has Connor looked into tweaking his kicking style? He says.
Oh god, I'd need to. We just filmed a goal kicking challenge with Cripper for the ball magnets, and it was elimination. You miss, you're out. The first kick, 15 metres out, straight in front. Everyone else puts it straight through, and I hook it to the left. So can't kick to save my life, but I feel like it's too late for me to change. So I'm sticking strong, and the double-handed ball drop and the just throw the boot at it and hope for the best is just my style.
Do you reckon you boys are on a level now with some of these players that a little text message and can we go for a kick? Do you reckon that's possible?
Oh,
Probably
I don't think like not with Cooper. I don't think I'm going for a kick with Cooper, but maybe if I text him and say, "Hey mate, like, could I give you
We'll
a
film it.
yeah, could I give
Yeah,
you
that's true.
a 2-minute call? I want to chat to you about something." Maybe he'd answer the call.
The video that still gives me chills from you boys is with Tom Mitchell when he pretends he does his shoulder.
Yeah,
That gives me cold sweats watching. I don't know how the hell you
that's
felt.
just not funny.
yeah.
Is it? Like,
I told Tommy.
Yeah.
Oh, were you on board with that?
Yeah, so when
So-
Caden was off, like getting the footies from the car or the boots or whatever it was, I said to Tommy, "Mate, when we're doing a bit of one-on-one stuff, go down with your shoulder," because he was just coming back from his
He'd
shoulder
had a
injury.
shoulder injury.
And Caden, like being very anxious, like he will be absolutely shitting himself.
And like the whole week, I was saying, "Geez, I hope something doesn't happen." Like I would hate, for Tommy to get injured or like because we're doing like running and sort of drills. So I was just conscious about that all week. So yeah, Rog went and
Well, you picked up because you went, nah.
well, because I went.
'Cause there was
I
bugger all
haven't. I
contacts.
haven't hurt Tom. Like I can't hurt Tom. I reckon I could run at Tom as hard as I want, and he would still come off best.
Yeah.
So I was straight away. I'm like, there's no way. But he was like, oh, and it was that same side, and you could see the scar where he'd had the surgery, and I went,
Oh, no.
far out.
Your hands on your head.
And Rog went, no, I heard that, Tommy. Like
I heard that.
So if I look up and Roger's giggling, but like, and everyone was like charging over, and then he looks at me and I'm like,
The acting was
It's a
Yeah.
good one.
was on point.
Here's the next one. I love this question. So this comes from rmerit48. When there's a movie made about the rise of Producy, who will be cast to play you two?
Sam. Oh, I was going to say Sam Pang, but
that's a great question.
but he's probably a little bit too old to play me. Maybe.
Bit too old.
Did you guys ever watch Big Time Rush?
Was that the
that-
band?
was
The
that
boy
that-
band?
Yeah, the boy band.
I watched that.
Carlos, the guy from Big Time Rush. I reckon him or Taylor Lautner.
No, there's a bit of Taylor Lautner.
There is.
Well, then maybe I'll get Robert Pattinson.
Yeah,
Twilight.
Twilight Producy.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's gold.
Jeez, the movie of Producy just Dill making moves and like,
Yeah.
coaching us.
That would be a bit of fun.
This one's at Cados. This is
yes.
from Luke McMahon 606. So thanks for your question, Luke. Caden, what's the hardest part about doing YouTube and doing a podcast?
Hardest part. Well, it's not that hard actually. Like I was sort of just roll out of bed at 10.
It's a grind.
Whack a video off
Yeah.
and I guess like staying consistent. I guess the editing as well is pretty tiring. It's something that I want to pass on in the next couple of years. Like, you know, I'll be out filming most days these days with like content and the podcast and like the social media. So to have the time to then go and edit that and produce it has been a little bit hard in recent times. So I sort of want to expand the business and get some people in. And
How long does it take to edit a YouTube video each week?
so that's why you can get stuck into this like rabbit hole of making easier videos so you can get them out more consistently. It would take like 2 or 3 hours for just like a stock standard video, but one that I care about and I love and I want my channel to hit regularly, it could take like a couple of weeks. Like a goal kicking challenge, a song to write, produce, record.
Thumbnails, everything?
Well, thumbnails is one of my favorite parts because you can put like a podcast on, and because I don't know how to use Photoshop that well, I just like stuff around on it for like 2 or 3 hours. Like I get lost in just like playing around with it. So I actually enjoy thumbnails because I can just like listen to something else. But when you're editing a video, you have to be like on the video. But editing's probably the hardest part.
Do you have to do anything with the podcast, or is that all done for you? Do you just have to be apart from planning the podcast and
The talent.
and being the talent? Do you have to edit it at all, or do anything?
We do the clips.
Do the clips, okay.
And they're a little bit tough as well because they're so like they might be 20 or 30 seconds, but to get it right and make them look the way TikTok clips look these days with subtitles and pictures and different cuts, sometimes the clips can take me half a day, and it's like it's such a little job that it's like I'm missing half a day for something so little. So that can get a little bit frustrating, but it's so rewarding for your podcast to get clips out.
Well, this one's directed at the great Connor Rogers.
Oh, you ripper. Happy days. You're here to stay.
Well, I don't think you'll be too happy when you hear this one because it's throwing you under the bus. So Hayden W_54 asks, ask Rog, who is the best DOS of all time?
Oh, that's an easy one, isn't it? Matty Hayden. Matty Hayden.
Well
the big opener.
Well played.
Has to be.
We still need to tell him what DOS means. We might tell him over lunch what DOS means in this household.
Yeah. It's probably, it's definitely not PG rated. So
Well, I can't wait.
It
We'll
mean-
put this on the
Nice couple more.
Patreon.
Is it 2 in Spanish?
Yeah, 2.
Un, dos,
Two.
tres.
DOS, yeah, it
DOS
is.
Church Control.
The Destroyer.
this is from Connor Tolley. And I don't know.
Connor, how are you, mate?
I don't know who this is referenced to.
I think it might be me, considering he lines up on the opposite wing to me at the Banyul Bears.
Ah.
I once heard a quote, first in best dressed. Is it true that second in can also be first best? What does that mean?
Well, that does not even resonate with
that's
me.
an
Go,
inside
run through it one more time because I'm deconstructed.
I once heard a quote, first in best dressed. But is it true that second in can also be first best?
Well, let's unpack that.
Is it true that second in can also be
Best.
best?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I think, some people doing.
I thought it might have been some in joke.
No,
That's what I was hoping.
that's-
I disagree with it because as Caden knows, I'm the most punctual person in the world. Like it really, I've never been late to anything in my life, and it does my head in. So I think you have to be first in to be best dressed, and anything later is disrespectful.
Says the bloke who booked Derby tickets on the day we were supposed to do the podcast.
And parked in the wrong street,
Yeah.
only 15 late.
So we got a couple. We'll go through these pretty quick, but we got one more. Noah Mills, Cados. Says to Cados.
Millsy.
Ever going to play footy again?
So I'm 27, and
It's now or never. Isn't
yeah,
it?
it is now. It is now or never.
You got the Dosso's Demons. That's playing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, you could look at the
I've
Super.
created my own league, picked my own opposition, and just watched my own highlights.
You could look at the over 35s.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I think one last dance. I reckon I reckon there's one more year in me.
I reckon when Caden moves to Melbourne, which hopefully is in the next sort of few months, he might be a sneaky chance of coming down to the Banyule Bears with me and playing a few twos games.
Yeah.
He's throwing him straight in the twos.
Yeah.
No ones aspirations.
Oh, well,
I would not have thought so.
We'll make this the last one. So this is from Munro Jumpers, and we can
Marilyn.
maybe we can probably
this will be Andy Munro.
we can expand on this a bit more in terms of like where you want producer to go. But his question is, do you still have radio aspirations, or is now I guess you love producer, you see yourselves just doing this and growing it?
Mate, if this isn't radio, I don't know what is.
Agreed.
So honestly, I don't listen to radio. I don't consume radio. If I do listen to radio shows like SEN, I listen on Spotify on the podcast app. Radio is podcasting. So I'm so because we did have aspirations to get into the mainstream. And I guess if something did come our way, it would be amazing. But there's no for me personally, there's no aspirations anymore. I'm fulfilling everything that I've wanted to do. So.
like if Triple M knocked on your door and said we want to do like Dos and Rod's show, it's like 3 p.m. till 4 p.m. 4:30, and it Monday to Friday, which means it's pretty much a full-time job. Like don't know if you'd be able to maintain the YouTube channel and like the amount of effort we'd put into it. Would you knock back the Dos and Rods on Triple M? Would you take it?
A nice contract too.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Really good contract.
Plus a brand new audience too.
I would take the Triple M show.
Yeah.
But I don't have aspirations for it. I'm not going to cold call Triple M. I'm not going to join the street team and try and work my way up. If something did come our way like that, then yeah, I would take it. But like in terms of having aspirations to be on radio, I'm getting my cup filled with podcasting.
Plus you get the creativity as well.
Where do you want to be, Rog?
I don't have any aspirations in radio either. After being in the radio industry for a little while, we were just on the street team, so not actually part of the content. But being in and around the office the whole time, our podcasting feels more real, feels more like radio than actual radio. Actual radio, there is so much that if you're getting sponsored by Jim's Cleaning at the time, they're doing Jim's Cleaning ads, the amount of content you have to do around Jim's Cleaning, and you've got to talk about The Bachelor, and you've got to talk about this. And it's not like what we do where we can just roll in and talk about whatever we want to as in-depth as we like. So, look, if you offered me like a full-time career in podcasting or a full-time career in radio, I think I would prefer podcasting. But that's basically where I see it.
That's how I feel too. Like initially we used to talk about, wouldn't it be great to be on radio? And the great thing about radio would obviously be the money and the opportunity to get this wide audience. But I just love the creativity that we can literally create everything ourselves. Like whether that be monetizing it or guests or content, and we can pivot and we're not under I don't know.
Well, the other thing that's massive is you own it.
Yeah, that's huge.
So
Freedom.
Owning your own thing is just so massive in this day and age. Like I didn't really know what IP, intellectual property, meant till a couple of years ago, but that is just so huge at the moment. For you boys to be able to own your own thing and dictate where it goes is just so massive. Like it's so important.
I just want a one-word answer for this. So Mia_Burdak.
Mia, how are you?
Just a one-word answer. What's your favourite ice cream flavour?
I'm a rainbow man.
Well, that was more than one word.
That's diplomatic.
I'm a rainbow man. It's 4 or 5.
Actually, an even better question. Cup or cone?
Well, I'm going to give you more than one word because
There we go. Here comes a technical answer.
I get 2 scoops. One's always rich, so it'd be like a double choc brownie, something stupid like that, and then I'll mix it up with fruity, so it'll be double choc, brownie, and mango or
Sorbet.
or sorbet.
Oh, there's too much happening there.
Sorbet and cream.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a combo.
You love your ice cream.
What's my favourite flavour?
Yeah, you love ice cream.
I love licorice flavour.
Liquor. I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that existed.
That is
either.
like the worst answer ever.
I'm not a licorice
Like
man.
no one
I'm
likes
not a lolly
licorice, the lolly, let alone an ice
I
cream.
love the lolly
flavour.
too.
man. Yeah.
That's insane. That's like medicine.
I'm not a lolly man at all. I'm a big chocolate and ice cream man. Don't do me lollies. Starburst, Zappos, count me right out.
Oh Jesus,
Nah,
mate.
I'm a salty man. I love chips. I love
Do ya?
like chips and shapes and.
Yeah, see, not
Dip
for me.
savoury.
Cheese and dip.
I'm cheese and dip, man. I'm a cob loaf.
I'm a crackers and dip.
cob loaf, how good. What about, just quickly,
Crackers and dip. That makes sense.
favorite like biscuit, like Arnott's biscuit. Have you got one?
Yeah, I love that. Just that. I'm plain. So my ice cream would have been vanilla, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I think rainbow is vanilla. Like
That's where I'm
I
at.
love
Really?
vanilla.
Rainbow's
Yeah.
caramel.
Yeah, well, yeah, it
But
is.
you know
it
that-
is.
you know
But,
that
but,
bit-
but like caramel's basic is what I was trying to get at.
Well, but there was a trend on TikTok for a while. It was like if you put oil into
Well, that's-
Hang on.
what was it? It was like soy sauce.
No, olive oil into ice cream.
Was it olive oil into
What
vanilla
the
ice
hell?
cream? It creates caramel ice cream or something.
Oh,
That's just not for me.
But you know that original Arnott biscuit, and it's just like what you get when
Like
you're,
an arrowroot.
when you're,
Yeah.
yes, when you're in hospital. It's like what you eat when you're in hospital.
Yeah.
Like
So
that's, I'm taking that.
arrowroot,
Scotch finger.
margarita pizza, and vanilla ice cream.
Scot-
That is
Mate,
Caden MacDonald.
Kados,
Really?
You're my man. You're
Yeah.
my man. I don't like sauce on shit.
Choc-
Just
choc-
no gravy, just plain.
Chocolate ripple though.
Oh,
Chocolate Ripple's good. Yeah, I'm a Monte Carlo man. Love
ya?
the Monte Carlos, yeah.
God, what am I? I love the cheddar ones. You know, like they're savoury, but they're these
Cheddar?
cheds. They're called cheds. Do you know them?
And
They're from Arnott's. Arnott's.
what about the Savoy with butter?
What?
Cheers, you know, the cheddar ones. Cheese. That's so funny.
And I love a Savoy with some butter and Vegemite.
Oh, beautiful. That's good. Not, I think I asked Arnott's biscuit and we've gone to Cheese and Savoy with Vegemite, but still good. Still good.
That's right. It's by Arnott's, same brand.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah,
Arnott's
same
is,
brand.
Mate, I stand corrected.
Yeah. Well, where do we sit? We're going over an hour, mate.
Mate, I think that's about it. So, well, boys, thank you again for coming in because we know this has been a bit of a Kados. Obviously, you come a long way for this, and
So we
we've done
appreciate
this,
it.
We've
Nah,
done
it's
this
been
to you
late.
twice now, but I think we'll get you in again and we'll talk a bit more creation. But
We
boys,
do this all day.
yeah, we actually could. We need to stop.
We're off to get some lunch, I reckon.
Yeah, Parma time. What do you boys reckon?
Yeah, I'm keen.
Yeah, eggplant parma, I reckon. Sounds
Eggplant.
good.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
What sort of parma do you like?
Palmy or parma or eggplant?
And the DOS reckons it's your shout, boys.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it will be.
I think it is.
Well, thanks, boys, for I was about to say thanks for having us. Thanks
No
for coming
worries,
on,
boys.
boys. It's been a pleasure.